guys, welcome to the 9th episode of Lifting the Lid.
In this episode, expect to find out the 5 lessons I learnt during Royal Marines training, how not to execute a night navigation exercise,
And why you should trade your curtains of shame for a pair of Budgie Smugglers.
Let's get into it. Welcome back. It's not our usual setup if you're watching on video. We've had to enact the cooling drill.
Yeah, so we bit the bullet early doors and didn't even attempt to film in my bar. Because it's about 35 degrees in there.
Yeah, the camera will just die. It's not so much for our safety as it is for yours.
Yeah, so
the camera's going to fucking die.
So we're in my garden now.
Yeah, we're in the shade.
I'd just like to immediately caveat this by saying there may be background noise, so apologies in advance, because I live next to an alleyway.
And schools have just finished.
The schools have just finished, and my back garden backs onto about 8 other back gardens, most of which have children and or dogs.
So that's good, isn't it?
So that's good.
As a start, that's a great another caveat.
And you do know that.
You like that. Okay, so topic today, to outline it, you would have seen it in the title, but we're going to do this as 2 parts, mainly because we're pushed for time. But it's basically going to be 10 lessons that I learnt in recruit training. Eddie's going to read them out, and we're going to riff off them for a bit. We're going to do 5 and 5, basically, aren't we?
Yeah, so this is another Lifting the Lid episode.
Yeah.
Are we on 9 now?
I think so.
That's mental.
Is it 9? 9 of them and then 20 below the bar.
Yeah, fucking hell.
Mad thing.
Clocking up some numbers now.
I know, yeah.
Not rookie numbers anymore.
Catching up Chris Willis soon.
Yeah. Well, we're meeting this weekend.
Yeah, we'll get on to that.
I'll take great delight in telling him that.
Yeah, we'll get on to that. So, helmet of the week.
Helmet of the week.
First of all.
So we need to wheel through the weekly segments first.
Yeah. So, if anyone's not aware of Eddie Abu, do you want to, he's more in your kind of...
I came across him first, didn't I?
Yeah.
I'm more into nutrition, so understandably he's riled me up more so than you, but he's a hat, isn't he, really?
Yeah, he started off like pretty mellow. Like he was recommending some half these. He was just recommending that you eat all unprocessed foods, right?
Yeah.
Which is fine.
I can get on board with that.
On board. But now I don't know how he even gets back in supermarkets now.
So well, basically, this is a classic kind of like fitness influencer. Even though he wouldn't call himself fitness influencer, the evolution. He's had to double down on his niche to the extent where he's now basically become a meme. Sorry.
Yeah, and so all the comments are now taking the piss out of him rather than going, "Oh, thanks for that. I took a load from that." Or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so he started out just calling, picking up, I don't know, Soreen loaf and going, "Look how much ingredients to this. He's fucking load of bollocks." But then he's now.
So now he's basically keto.
Is he carnivore?
No, because he eats carbs like once a week as a bit of like a refuel thing.
Right. Okay.
And he eats like animal. He eats certain fats, so like he eats avocado.
Right. But in his entire personality and content now, he's just him walking in supermarkets and basically saying, "This is shit. This is shit. This is shit."
Yeah, he's just trying to be polarised, isn't he? So it's weird. So like, unlike some other helmets that we have in this segment, he doesn't enrage me as such.
No.
But like, it's just disappointing to see.
Well, he has just gone too far.
You can't help but feel deep down he just wants to preach like the minimally processed diet, but he's been forced down the kind of
just because social media's got its fucking claws in, hasn't it?
Yeah. So now, like you said, he's like keto, borderline carnivore.
Yeah.
And it's just like, come on, bro.
Because you have to go polarize until you sort of you are just a meme, and then you get views not because people are valuing your content, because people are sharing it because it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, it just becomes entertainment because you almost just.
Which is where he kind of is now, isn't it? It's if you haven't come across him, by the way, big on TikTok. If you just type in Eddie Abbott,
massive on TikTok. Now I came across him when he was kind of like just starting out.
Before he was cool.
And now I think he's got like over 250,000 followers or something.
Yeah,
he's huge.
Big,
but like you said, like he basically just gobs off in supermarkets going, look at all this shit.
Yeah.
It's going to give you like cancer. It's going to kill you. And he's
pointing
at it like a serene loaf.
Yeah, but the thing is, he doesn't cite any scientific evidence for this.
No, it's all anecdotal.
It's all just, this is shit because we never had it in our day when I was bodybuilding.
And then
he'll get duetted by someone who actually has the data. Yeah. And he's like
he'll go look at the signs, but then won't actually cite or reference any academic studies.
He'll go, just look at the studies. Right, what studies?
What studies? yeah, what studies they
do? Fucking hat. That's the major gripe I have with him, because at least he's, like most of these people, his counterparts. You know, like Liver King's mate, what's his name? That fucking Nick Saladino, whatever his name is.
Oh,
he at least cites studies. they're bullshit studies, but he does site studies. But yeah, at least he tries. He doesn't even bother. He's like, this is shit, basically, take my word for it, because I'm a big stackers bloke.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, I had a client that came to me who ate such and such, and then we stopped them eating such and such, and their gut health miraculously improved. It's like,
how are you measuring that gut health?
Yeah, and also that's one person on a planet of 8 billion.
Yeah, so that's good odds, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
I like that.
But yeah, so he's helmet of the week. As I said, he's not enraging me like other people that have that share his title have.
Yeah.
But it's just disappointing to see. You know, it's like I'm not angry. I'm disappointed.
Yeah, that's true. Like a disappointed parent. But because he started off pretty mellow. I could get on board with it, but
yeah, and he did used to be a top. Like in the 90s or like early 2000s.
He was a top bodybuilder.
He did used to be a top bodybuilder, so he at least has got some credibility.
Yeah.
He's not just kind of a hat gobbing off in their bedroom.
But
true. Like he
does do that.
But he does now do that. So make of that what you will.
Yeah. So to get straight into it, what we're going to do now, I've compiled 10 lessons. Eddie hasn't seen them yet, so I'm going to hand the phone over now for audio listeners, and he's going to pick basically 5. We're going to go through them individually.
Yeah, so I'm going to pick the 5 that jump out at me immediately.
Yeah.
And then the other 5 that we don't get through this episode will be next week's episode.
Sorted.
Effectively.
So basically, from this episode, you can take everything that I took from Marine's training without going through it yourself. So fantastic rate of return there.
Right, okay. So for audio listeners now, I am perusing the list of 10 points.
Mad as well, right? Because this time, I've done more prep than Eddie.
Yeah.
This is groundbreaking
Which is
stuff,
dangerous.
Folks. Yeah, exactly.
That's a dangerous precedent to set for a podcast.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
Right, okay. We'll jump straight in with arrogance is a one-way ticket to incompetence.
Okay.
I like that because that rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, okay. So this basically stemmed from a couple of these stemmed from the same thing. But when I got lost on Baptist Run. So Baptist Run, if you don't know, is a exercise where you get tested on everything you do in phase 1 of training. One of those things is navigation. My dad, being a scout, right, had always taught me fucking navigation. So I was like, playing lip service to the lectures. I was like, I'm sound. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Good to go. And anyway, obviously, that didn't really transpire. I ended up getting lost, getting backtrooped, and then my fucking world started to fall apart. But that all stemmed from me being too arrogant to actually swallow my ego a little bit and say, I need to listen, need to forget the stuff I think I've learnt already, and just sit and be present and listen to what they want me to actually do, because they're obviously teaching me it for a reason. So it's almost removing your ego from something. I think we'll get back to the armchair jiu-jitsu thing. So I think jiu-jitsu does this well. Anecdotally, from your extensive
kind of hands-on experience, on the mat, in your mind.
Because I don't think you can't go through jiu-jitsu without getting beaten. So if you're continually getting humbled all the time, your ego is just going to be, you're going to leave it at the fucking door anyway, because you realise actually, I need to be in here to learn and to be in a kind of a growth mindset rather than anything else.
Yeah, so ironically, that's really like the biggest hiccup you encountered in training, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The navigation side of things.
Yeah.
And going down to Limpston, you'd probably pick that out as something that you could actually do.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I could definitely thought I could read a map and all that kind of stuff, but I think it's one thing theorising it and doing it classroom or in theory, to then taking it into a practical at night, having to navigate around.
It's time pressure environment.
Time
as
pressure.
Well, isn't it?
It's all these things that I didn't have to encounter before, and so that's what really stuck out. But that happens a lot as well, where lads will come.
So have you got any other examples of that?
Well, lads will come with like pre-existing biases of like maybe how to climb ropes or how to do or how to shoot, for example. The lads who like grow up shooting.
Yeah, or like say if you went on like a certain weekend package that prepares people for, I don't know, say the Royal Marines. And included in that package was shooting. But it wasn't actual like firearm shooting. Say you're using, I don't know,
something like an air rifle,
or a BB gun.
Oh yeah, potentially. Yeah.
So that could lead to developing.
It's completely different.
Yeah, that could lead to bad habits. Couldn't it?
It could. So, and picking up those bad habits, then you could, a certain individual, certain type of individual, could go down to Limpston thinking, okay, I know it all now, sweet, job done. And then in the weapon stances, in all these kinds of things, could pay a little bit lip service. This is also dangerous, certainly with weapons.
Yeah.
If you think, like, I know everything, don't have to listen, all that kind of stuff, you could miss key safety information, which is obviously what they teach you in the first phase, which is the boring stuff. But the thing is, if it's new to you, like it was for me, I had never touched a weapon before, so it was mega new to me. I was pretty tuned into everything, so I don't want to fuck this up, because this could genuinely hurt someone or whatever, or I hurt myself. But if you think because if you're like desensitized to that, even like a slight degree, because you've had exposure to it,
yeah,
then it could play against you. And I think that comes with arrogance, having too high an ego and thinking you know more than maybe the instructor does.
Yes, I think especially with technical stuff like that, it's almost better to go as a blank slate.
Mm.
You know, you obviously need to be kind of like general physical preparedness.
Well, fitness.
Because otherwise they'll just break you down and you'll be next to useless. Yeah. But with technical stuff like that, skill-orientated stuff, I think it is almost better to go with an open mind.
Yeah, this is mega.
Because then they can mould you how they see fit.
This is definitely pseudoscience, but I'll cite it anyway. So you remember Elliot Hulse when we used to watch him?
Yes.
So he used to always say, to learn from a blank slate, like a skill, he always used the example of a deadlift, but, you know, take it for everything. Take about 300 to 500 reps to ingrain a motor pattern. Okay? But if you have an incorrect motor pattern that you then have to correct, it takes about 3,000 to 5,000 repetitions to then correct that incorrect motor pattern. So it's exactly what we're talking about.
Because you have to break it down and then build it back up again, as opposed to just building it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you're right. You know, going as a blank slate would almost be easier than going with a little tiny bit of a bad habit and then having to relearn it.
Yeah. So don't worry if you're not fucking
so,
John Wick before you go down to Limpston.
Which is why I don't preach YouTube soldering.
Yeah, not naming names. Right. So you've pretty comprehensively gone through that one.
Yeah.
Let's go with nice short one. Don't be Jack.
Yeah. So again, some of these I'll have to unpack. So Jack, I don't know why, to be honest, but it just refers to being lazy, selfish, not working for the team, all these kinds of things. Is
it short for like jack shit? Is it like?
I don't know. Maybe.
It's a bit of a just
don't be doing jack shit.
Don't be a dick, basically.
Yeah. But
in relation to kind of like admin and hygiene, isn't it?
Like working within a team. So if you imagine a team environment, one person just isn't pulling their weight. Obviously, that objective still has to be achieved. So the other 5 people in the team have to then increase their output to make up for what you're not doing, right? So you imagine like a cleaning block. You might have certain areas you've got to clean. If one person isn't pulling their weight, then all the rest of the lads are going to have to get around their thing, which taps into their own free time and all that kind of stuff and stress. It also is the case when it can be on like a personal level, certainly in the earlier stages of training when you're taking care of your like individual bed space, getting inspected every time. If you're the lad in the room who is always messing up and he's always fucking it, then all those lads in your room are all going to get thrashed because of you.
Yeah. And
that's a form of being Jack, as in not having your own shit squared away to a point where the lads in your room aren't getting seen off because of it.
Yeah, ultimately it's selfish, right? Because if you're cutting corners, you probably think, this is great.
Yeah.
I'm cutting corners.
I get more sleep.
And I get more sleep. Yeah. But what you don't, or you may or may not realise is the other lads are actually picking the pieces for you.
Yeah, and then you go, I don't mind getting thrashed. Well, it's great for you, but the rest of the lads don't want to get fucking thrashed for your shortcomings, do they?
And ultimately, that's going to end in tears because they're your fucking comrades at the end of the day.
Yeah, you need a good relationship with them. So you can't just be cutting corners and having them pick it up. And
surely you won't get all the way through training if you've just seen off everyone in your troop, because they'll just
fucking not.
Because they'll just weed you out eventually. Surely, like the training staff will get wise to that as well.
Sometimes it does slip through, but you know what's mad? They so in King Squad week, so the final week of training, this is last week. They'll have a few things passed around. So obviously there's the official awards, right? So Commando Medal, King's Badgeman, all these kinds of things, PT Medal. But they have like in-house things where they sit on the top of the land and they go, lads, pass around a bit of paper. Let me know who is the most Jack in the troop, right? So you see someone off, even though they're going to pass out next week.
Yeah.
Who's the Jackiest in the troop? Who's the shittest bloke? Who's the best bloke? Whatever. They have a few bits, but it's mad because someone will get, inevitably someone has to be chosen. So if you get one person with like 8 votes for Jackiest bloke, it's like, right.
Yeah. So what's the punishment for
that? Well, it's just disdain at that point, because there's no real time left to do anything. They've passed everything.
You've just got to live with the guilt of knowing that you were the
Jack bloke. But it's just one of those titles you really don't want.
Well, that follow you through the call.
Well, it just will, because if that's the way you are.
Anecdotally, people.
Well, if that's how you show up in a unit or show up in a troop, then it'll always follow you, because you're always going to be that bloke.
Yeah.
Until there's a bloke who's worse than you, then you're always going to be, and you still even then you'll just be shrouded with the jack brush. But it does permeate all of even like in the field and all these kinds of things, because there's always shit to get done. And so if you're the bloke who's fucking rapping in his poncho because it's cold or something,
yeah,
it's like, right, well, now all the other lads have got to work, and all the other lads are, remember, sleep deprived, hungry, cold.
True.
But just because you're fucking...
I guess to a certain extent, you're always going to be jack at something. You know what I mean? Because...
What do you mean?
To a certain extent, because like no one's good at everything.
You're always going to have a weakness. It's not about being good at everything. It's about being... it's about trying, I think.
Right,
at least. Because at least if you dig out, then at least lads know the effort levels there, even if you're not quite...
Even if you shit out.
Yeah, even if you're not quite there, then that's not the important thing. The important thing is you're not just like... you visibly, all the lads are working, you're in your pit. It's like, that's where it kind of comes up, I think.
Right.
Number
3.
Number 3.
Right. What should we go for next? We'll do this one. This one could... sunk cost fallacy can be an advantage.
Yeah, so this is interesting. I only realised this. I didn't even know what the sunk cost fallacy was when I went to training until like 2 years ago, basically. If you don't know what it is the notion that the more you invest into something, the more value you attach to that thing. Right? Yeah. So the example would be a relationship that someone's been in for 5 years. You ask them, why are you still in a relationship if you're not quite happy? Oh, well, I've been with them 5 years. It's always the thing that people say.
It's just the duration of time that it's gone on is the only thing really that's keeping them in it.
Yeah. So they don't want
because if they were a month into it and they were that unhappy, they'd chin it off.
Yeah. So all that, they don't want all that effort to go to waste, effectively. However, in a relationship context, I agree. I think that's probably something you should maybe look at and think, right, well, is this right? Because a relationship is one of those things. It's permanent, right? It's for life. You've got to think about.
I mean, you have to work at it.
Yeah.
Like no one falls into a relationship that takes absolutely no maintenance.
No. But also, it is a continual thing. So the example, the converse example to Royal Marines training with it's 8 months. It's got a timestamp on it.
Yeah, 100%.
It's different. So where I definitely use this without knowing. I always would think the amount of effort and blood, sweat and tears I put into even just getting to Limpston would be a huge contributing factor to me not leaving in certain evolutions where I was questioning myself. I was like, oh, this is shit, I'm shit at this, all these things running through your head. I would always go back to, I've put so much into this journey so far, like this year, 2 years, it'd be such a fucking waste for me to not
especially in like
get through,
saying like a single isolated moment, where you're just getting thrashed or like you're on bottom field or something, and you just rap because you're fed up.
Yeah.
You think about all the months of work that have gone into that moment.
Doesn't equate, does it? So
no,
you got 8 months of work, for example, and 2 minutes of discomfort.
And the thing is,
compressed.
And the irony is, you knew the discomfort was coming.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah.
But you just mentally, it doesn't really make it any easier when you're in the moment.
No, well, you can't think rationally in those moments. No. That's the problem. But if you can remove yourself and think back to a moment in your preparation, for example, that was really tough that you got through, that can sometimes spur you on. But I definitely use this innumerable times in training, and even since then, in arduous things. For the marathon is a good example. Like I use the fact that I've been sacrificing hours of my week to fucking run, to hold a consistent pace in London, because this is what I did that for. I always frame that, and I think that helps when it's something with a timestamp on. I think it can be dangerous when it's a permanent thing, like a job or a relationship. A job is a bad one, because you think, oh fucking hell, I've been here for however long, I'll now have to leave and do the same thing somewhere else, or do the same amount of effort somewhere else. But
well, the thing is, they dangle carrots in kind of like in the job market and in careers, don't they? Because you're incentivized to stay longer.
Oh yeah.
With things like pensions and like bonuses and stuff.
Yeah, true.
Because they know full well that the chances are, because it's ultimately unfulfilling,
that honeymoon period is going to
That honeymoon period is going to end, and ultimately you are going to get like cold feet.
Yeah, that's true. And the same with the relationship. The question you've always got to ask yourself in those two scenarios, I think, is: would you still stay the course if it was like this when it started? Like you mentioned before, like a couple of minutes ago, when you said if it was a month in, there'd probably be different. Same thing, I think, if you ask yourself, transport yourself back to the start of your job or start of a relationship, would you still stand for what is going on now? If that's a no, then it's probably a no, isn't it?
Yeah, basically when you stop shagging like rabbits. Ultimately, if you're not fulfilled, then it's a fuck no.
But yeah, but I think I use that, and I do use that continually in times of like hardship and certainly physical things, because if you can mentally remove yourself and think about the effort and investment you've put in, I think it just helps you push further, because again that momentary discomfort is only going to be maximum like an hour, right? Well, maybe not, but like maximum 8 hours, for example. But you compare that to 8 months of training or 8 months of prep.
I do think that aspect of your mindset is what kind of sets apart people that have served in kind of like tier 1 and like tier 2 forces, you know, when they go on to do other things outside of being in the military, because it just compounds, doesn't it? Because the more arduous shit you do, the more utterly kind of irrelevant everything that you do after that is.
Part of the reason training is so difficult is for perspective.
Yeah.
So that when you get into a unit and you're told to do a 6-hour yomp at fucking £55, you're like, oh sweet, I've done that. I've done an 8-hour one in training 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and
like
the further in and the further up the ladder you go,
the more
you have to draw upon.
Yeah, exactly. The more of those little micro examples you've got to draw on, like you say. So
if you've then come out of like, I don't know, say you were like SF or whatever, and you come out and then you go into the corporate world in finance or something, even though you don't have any job specific kind of experience, they put you in charge of like 6 people or whatever, and they're moaning at you about, I don't know, because they're fucking having their sales targets or something, and you've seen people die.
Yeah. It's a bit like, what's one of them?
It's an extreme example.
It's not. You're not going to stress. You're not going to stress about it.
Exactly. You're not going to flap because fucking Deborah's not hit a sales target, are you?
No.
Because ultimately you've seen worse things.
Which is super useful, and it's probably why a lot of ex-special forces guys go on to be in business and do so well, is because in those pressure scenarios they can remove emotion, like is what we're talking about, and make logical and rational decisions, whereas a lot of people who haven't been in those environments can't do that. And as soon as they get that micro stress, shift them into emotion, and then they can't make good decisions.
I do think that people that are and ahhing, I mean, obviously I've never been in the military, but like, as an outsider looking in, I think that people contemplating whether to go into like the Marines or paras or whatever worry too much about having directly transferable skills that they can use afterwards. When actually it's more the mindset that is appealing to employers, because they know that they've gone through that.
I was actually listening to something. Who was it now? It was it was Nick Bear and Chris Williamson. They were talking about hiring people on traits rather than skill sets,
which I think makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So like Netflix apparently do it, where you hire people on traits, so you know they're conscientious, they're self-disciplined, they're fucking self-motivated, whatever. You can then teach that person pretty much whatever, but the reverse isn't true. So you'll always see people get fired off the back of their traits. It's like he was lazy, he was late, he was whatever, you know, unmotivated. They're never really fired off their skill set, because their skill set is, you know, they do that every day. It's probably part and parcel. But if someone's like dishonest or whatever, then you're probably going to part ways with them in your company. Whereas if you hire on good traits, then it's probably a win-win, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, really. So, like, if you think it takes 5 years to learn everything that you need to know to become a doctor, but to learn the traits needed to be a good doctor, it takes your entire life up to that point.
Yeah, it's every experience you've had.
Yeah.
Molds.
So I'd see why you would put more value in traits over experience.
Certainly in some jobs. Obviously, there's certain jobs where the skill is
incredibly
technical, like pilot or something. You don't really care if your pilot's fucking dishonest, do you?
Punctual.
Yeah.
He's crashed 4 planes, but he's always on time. You've got to give it to him.
But I think that is something, and I think you're right. It does give you a mindset and a specific set of those traits to fall back on, even if you haven't got specific skills. Because what you can do, remember, like if you join at 18 and you're in for 5 years, like I was, you're out at 23, you're still fucking so young. You could go and do a course in something then that lasts a year. You're 24. Now you've got a skill, you've got all the traits, you're in.
Well, yeah. In my case, the 5 years that you were in the Corps, I got an undergrad degree and a master's degree, and I still had fucking no idea what I wanted to do in my life at the end of it, which is why we both ended up doing the same thing now.
Well, yeah, but you're then ultra qualified in one thing, but realise you didn't even want to do that one thing.
Well, I wasn't even ultra qualified in one thing.
Well,
Degrees aren't actually that specific.
That's true. They are quite general.
Because they're not training you for a specific job, are they?
No.
Like you were training to be a Royal Marine Commando. I was learning about a lot of shit that isn't necessarily relevant to any specific job.
Yeah, that's jarring, isn't it?
Yeah.
Spend so much time, do it. You put a lot of effort into it as well, because so much work goes into that, and for it to come out at the other end. So I think that's sometimes why it's a shame where you can take courses in, I don't know, use our sphere of influence, for example, like a strength and conditioning course or something like that. That might be more beneficial to you as a coach in terms of like delivering sessions than a sports coaching degree might be, because sports coaching degree might focus on fucking everything, whereas you're just a strength and conditioning coach. So you do a strength and conditioning course. However, the accreditation you get from a strength and conditioning course isn't as valued at all. Whereas having a degree in sports coaching sounds a bit more credible. You think, oh fucking hell, that guy's got his shit going on. But actually, it might just be that he knows loads about how to coach women's fucking netball. You never know, do you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
It's one of those things. It's weird, and I think that is true for everything, for all like subjects.
Yeah, we went off on a bit of a tangent there. We'll rein it back in. It was all relevant.
To the topic.
Right, we'll do a funny one now. Men can get an awful lot done in the absence of women.
Yeah, so I was hoping you'd leave this with next episode.
Well, I've thrown you under the bus, so...
Yeah, this was one that came to me. This is number 9.
I'll be honest, at face value, I agree.
Yeah, so the only reason I put that was when I was in, there was no women allowed in the Corps. And I just remember how much you obviously get done a lot anyway, because you're in training and everything's regimented, all these kinds of things. But your focus is there, and is the number one thing is getting up, doing the next thing, fucking following orders, doing whatever. You're 100% focused because there's no distraction. The number one distraction for blokes, let's be honest, is women.
Yeah, 100%. The best example of this is a night out.
Yeah.
Think how many nights out you've been on that have just gone pear-shaped or have fallen apart because someone that you were with, like a lad, or like a few of the lads, have just made completely irrational decisions.
Yeah.
Based purely on their primeval urges.
Yeah. Well, that's exacerbated with alcohol, I think. But I think even in a workplace, it can be a problem as well. But maybe not a problem, but it can be a factor, because
a hindrance.
Well, yeah. If you've got a load of blokes driving towards one thing with no distractions, who's gonna be more productive? That office, or an office of, obviously you've got the women input in as well, but the blokes from that office, same number of blokes. If you had those blokes driving a thing that's an aim, the same aim, but you've got now, fucking 5 hot chicks in there, because it's gonna be distracting. They're gonna be playing status games in there.
It's gonna be a dick swinging competition.
Yeah, they're gonna be trying to outdo each other, which doesn't create a good culture. They're gonna be trying to spend time when they could be working on something, trying to hit on this bird, trying to get them out for a date and all this. It's just one of those things. I think it's not actionable, this one, by the way. It's nothing that anyone can.
It's just something to. It's just something to ponder.
It's an observation, isn't it? And obviously it's not that true anyway, because you in most office environments, and now even in the Marines as well, where women are allowed in, you now have the input from women too. So
right, so isn't there a female PTI at Livingston now?
I don't know. Oh yeah, there is.
There was when we went down for Al's pass out, wasn't there?
Mm. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know. That can that be detrimental maybe, or is it a good thing that they're they're competing harder in Fizz now because they're trying to fucking impress this.
Well, I don't know. Anecdotally, from the lads that we spoke to, she certainly garnered a lot of attention.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing. It's just different, isn't it? I guess.
It is
so
naturally
she would.
Yeah, but I think if you look at we spoke about this last week. Really, you look at productivity and you look at distractions. They diverge, don't they? You know, if you have a environment with no distractions, you're going to be much more productive at whatever it is.
Yeah.
If you've got distractions, then you're going to be less productive.
If you place yourself in a female vacuum.
Yeah, like monk mode is the first.
I was just about to say, basically,
example.
if you want to get ready for Limpson, just go monk mode.
Yeah, obviously Limpson's not the perfect example because you do get like weekends off and all that kind of stuff. But in the week, there is nothing else that's on your mind other than get to tomorrow, do the next test, do the next whatever. There's nothing else going on, really, apart from when you go to the dentist and the dental nurse is there. But you know, other than that,
right, we'll leave that there before you enter the manosphere.
Yeah.
Right, so this is the final one now.
This number 5.
This is number 5.
Okay, choose wisely, lad.
I'm trying to do one that isn't kind of touched on the same things we've already. Right, choose the hard right over the easy wrong.
Okay.
By hard right, I'm assuming you don't mean you don't mean politically.
Well, that's why I didn't say easy left.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, so this again, I can use the same example really, but I can use a load of examples. But the big example for me was again Baptist Run, navigation, but this is micro. So on the actual navigation evolution, and it ties into the other one with the arrogance a little bit, but I'll explain why. So essentially, to get from point A to point B, where I had to be the first checkpoint, which was where I was trying to get to, the right thing to do was to go straight through this bog, like it was going to be like up to my nips in like soggy fucking horrible water.
Yeah,
basically. But the right thing to do was to wade through it.
This is in like winter as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is just before Christmas, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like November.
Yeah.
So
good memory. That.
The right thing to do is to follow your bearing and go straight through it. What I did was think, fuck that. That sounds gopping. Doesn't it? So I attempted to box around it, which means you go a certain amount this way, a certain amount forward, a certain amount back, and if you're really good at nav, you can get back onto your bearing. Little shephers.
As we've established,
wasn't very good at nav.
As we've established, you're not great at nav.
Yeah. So again, I chose the easy wrong, right, which was the easy one. Easy way around it was trying to box around it, not get wet, get to my fucking objective anyway. Didn't happen. Ended up getting lost. Didn't know where the fuck I was, and ended up failing. That's one example. The other kind of like little examples are a bit like what Gareth was talking about in our mindset lecture, but he was like talking about doing admin after an exercise or something like that. If you choose to just be the bloke who just fucks all this stuff in his locker and just raps, basically.
You choose to be Jack.
Yeah. Well, there would Jack on yourself there,
yeah,
aren't you?
Yeah.
If you choose to just not do the work you've got to do, and leave it for a bit because you're knackered or because you're sleep deprived or whatever, or if you choose to cut corners because you're sleep deprived, that's the easy bit, isn't it? That's taking the easy route. Choosing the hard right decision of you are knackered, you're sleep deprived, you're cold, you've been cold for 5 days, you're hungry, whatever. You've got loads of other loops that are open in your head.
Yeah.
But the thing you need to do is square your kit away so you can relax then, and so that the inspection tomorrow is passed. And having the self-discipline to be able to, remove everything else, all the other distractions. Haven't spoken to my girlfriend for five days, all these kinds of things, and just put your phone away and actually get through your to-do list of stuff before you then relax and do other things is very, very valuable. And certainly, as you get further in training and you've kind of realised that, you'll start to do it. But if you can harness that in the early stages of training, you'll have a much easier time, both from like the training team not thinking you're a sack, and you getting actually more sleep on an individual basis, because the faster you can do your admin, the better sleep you're going to get.
Yeah, so you can look at this through the lens of the Chimp Paradox.
Okay, go on.
In the example that you just used, you got back from an exercise and you want to rap.
Yeah.
The voice in your head, i.e. the chimp, just wants to go to sleep, doesn't he? But the computer
knows that he needs to get his shit squared away.
He's got an inspection at
So it's about understanding that you need to control your chimp.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things. It's
So if you want something that you can action, get familiar with the Chimp Paradox by Steve Peters.
What I will say though, I think in those scenarios where everything is at a deficit, effectively, like you've had no sleep, all these kinds of things are creeping in. I think your chimp does have the wheel. He has control a little bit in that moment. So the better you can get at managing him under duress when you're, sleep deprived or too hungry or you've been away for 7 days, the better time you're going to have. But again, choosing that hard right decision rather than taking the easy route, which is eventually going to bite you in the arse. And this is true for everything in life, really. But those examples that I learned in training, because again, like we spoke about with the travel thing, like it's compressed. Like life experience is just then compressed into these 8 months, and you learn so much more about yourself.
It comes thick and fast, doesn't it?
In those tiny areas, because you've got no choice but to grow up. You've got no choice but to mature. Hold standards, all these kinds of things, because otherwise you'll be left by the wayside. So that was one of the lessons, I think.
It is definitely an exercise in chimp management, I think, because you're never fully going to have control over your chimp 100% of the time, but it's about knowing when to let him out of his box and not.
Yeah.
So like, if you know that you can get out in town at the weekend, you've got to use that as a carrot for the chimp.
Yeah, you got to put him on edge.
Get your shit squared away now. The computer's in charge now. Then Saturday he can come out to play.
Yeah, so give him little micro.
Give him little micro carrots to keep
get yourself
him
through the 8 months.
Exactly.
Like that. Yeah, that's good. They should fucking it should be working for Limpston. That'd be great. It's probably below his pay grade.
I was gonna say it's well below his pay grade, lad. He's working with like fucking Team GB Athletics, isn't it?
But yeah, that's 5, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the first 5.
There you go. So you can look forward to another 5 of those next week, where part 2 will be out.
I mean, theoretically, it should actually be better as well, because you will have had a week to ponder the final 5.
That's true. Yeah, I think hopefully you took something from that.
I took something from that.
There we go. Good. Well, that's something we haven't really covered before, and we were looking at how to. And I got the idea from last week's episode where we did five lessons each from travelling.
People like.
I thought we haven't done that from training. That was a big pivotal moment in 9 months.
Well, no, with the lifting and lids, we tend to focus on a singular topic, don't we?
Yeah.
And then try and comprehensively cover it in that episode. Whereas this, we're dipping into a lot of different aspects.
Yeah, exactly. I like it. It's good. So it'll make a good one next week again. I'll come up with 5 more, but we've got to go through our usual segments now to finish off, haven't we?
Yeah, so we'll round off with the usual segments. We'll try and keep it concise.
Yeah.
For your listening pleasure, and also the fact we've now got to drive to Brighton.
Yeah.
On Friday evening, rush hour traffic.
Which is going to be great.
So that's good. And I want to make the fucking opening game of the Rugby World Cup, which isn't going to happen, and you do know that.
You do know that, yeah.
Right, so underrated, overrated. It's either underrated...
You've charmed me.
...or it's overrated.
Well, that was fucking dreadful.
Yeah.
Who's going first?
I'll go first, if you want. Underrated, overrated. Budgy Smugglers. Yeah, you heard it. Aussie birds.
Yeah.
So this is
going to be quite biased because we're very firmly in the Budgie Smuggler echo chamber.
Yeah, we love it, but there are a lot of people who take themselves too seriously, lad.
Basically, that's what it comes down to. If you ask someone whether they're like Budgie Smugglers or not, you're kind of indirectly asking them whether they know how to have a good time or not. You are, aren't you, really? Because that is the whole ethos of Budgie Smugglers.
That's the brand value.
Life's short. Don't take yourself too seriously. Have a laugh.
Yeah.
Basically, if you had to distill their brand down into kind of 3 sentences, it would be that.
It's great, and that's kind of that story is told in the bright and loud colours that you never get budgies in like black, do you?
No, they deliberately kind of So the actual, if you're not familiar with Budgie Smugglers, they're like Speedos, but they're kind of
they're a brand of Speedo, aren't they?
Well, no, Speedos are a brand.
Oh yeah, of course.
They're like their swim
they're swim pants, aren't they?
What do you call them?
Or swimwear.
Y-fronts, is that what they're called?
No, they're not Y-fronts. Because Speedos, it's the same as Tannoy. It's actually it's public address system. People incorrectly use the brand instead of saying what it is.
True, yeah.
So they're basically like, everyone knows what Speedos are. They're like Speedos, but they're kind of like really bold, brash designs.
Yeah.
To kind of take the piss out of people who do wear Speedos.
And obviously, you know, we've covered that. You know how to have a good time if you're wearing them. We rate the fact that they don't take themselves too seriously as a brand. But from a purely practical standpoint,
they're great.
They're unbelievable. So comfortable. And when I used to wear curtains of shame.
So for anyone that's not down with the lingo, curtains of shame are what smugglers call basically swim shorts. Yeah. You know, with like the net lining, they go down to your knees, and once you get them wet, they're wet for the day then. They're
wet for the day, but also, whenever I would go to the beach and get in the sea and go, you know, whatever, do my shit in the beach, I would inevitably chafe every time. That little underpant lining, net thing, would get loads of sand in it, and I would walk around and I'd be fucking well uncomfortable the whole day. Ruin my beach experience. As we spoke about before, I like the beach, you don't, but that would ruin my beach day. Anyway, budgies, you don't have that fucking issue, lad, because everything's high and tight. This is
so true. So, kind of from a style and practicality aspect, so it's style and substance. They've delivered both.
No one delivers both.
It's normally one or the other, isn't it?
Yeah, unbelievable. But yeah, anyway, underrated because no one wears them.
They are underrated. So they're massive in ours. If you're, I think like 1% of our listeners are Australian.
Oh, check that, did you?
Yeah, I think it was 1% last time I checked. So if for that one Aussie listener out there. They know.
Out of 10.
Out of 10. Yeah. But like, they're kind of unheard of in the UK still. They are growing though.
Difficult to get, but
they're growing in kind of like the fitness sphere, aren't they?
Yeah.
But they still
haven't
hit
James Smith.
Basically, they haven't hit the mainstream yet.
We'll tell him tomorrow. Yeah. Anyway, go on. Your turn.
Right. So this is we didn't discuss this beforehand, but they are kind of interrelated and very on brand for James Smith.
Of course.
Maybe he's on our mind subconsciously.
Somehow, I don't know why.
Underrated, overrated sliders.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're both, again, very biased because we're both wearing sliders.
Yeah, massively underrated. The sliders and socks combination, I would put to you as an evolution on that.
I'll cast my net even more narrowly. Right, socks and sliders in every walk of life.
Yeah, every walk of life.
Not just like cosy chilling around the house. Everywhere.
I wear them everywhere.
So I just now basically live in socks and sliders.
And that was since the marathon, innit?
Yeah.
Because you need a way to like air your feet, but also to be kind of socially acceptable. You can't have your toes out in Nando's, like, but you can go in socks and sliders, and it's kind of, well, I don't know. I've deemed it socially acceptable, but maybe
they're like the Budgie Smugglers of feet. Because you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like instead of freeing the thigh, you're freeing your foot.
Yeah, I like that. But they're so comfortable, mate. Especially, well, these ones aren't great because they're quite hard. But if you get a decent pair of sliders, they can be like, who's the ones who do it now? There's a brand that do mega Gucci. Yeezy in it. Yeezy.
Oh, the Yeezy.
Yeah,
one.
They look
They're
fucking
mental.
mega. They do. I've never tried them, but if you can get one that are really padded, they're like walking on clouds, and you can wear them everywhere.
They're great. Name me, obviously, unless you're doing like kind of like rigorous fizz, in which case you want appropriate footwear as a PT. Name me a scenario where you can't just whack on some socks and sliders.
Yeah, it's true. Fancy restaurant, you struggle.
That's bullshit.
Yeah,
that's pretentious.
You probably just wear
that's
them anyway.
pretentiousness, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's not an actual practical reason. Like, you're not at danger if you wear them in a posh restaurant.
Okay, danger. Okay, on a building site.
Fuck that, mate. I could labour in socks and sliders.
I'll put that to the test. But yeah, I agree. Underrated. No one wears them. It just seems to be us two. There's a problem here. But that's only stemmed from our marathon prep because we needed so much time in, like, but effectively not in shoes.
But again, like when we walk round where we live, because it's quite kind of like
rural.
Yeah, like it's kind of small, like town mentality, isn't it? Yeah. Like no one wants to stand out from the crowd.
Yeah.
I walk around everywhere outside in socks and sliders
If you walk into the village to grab like a pint of milk or whatever, you get weird looks.
Yeah, you do. It's the equivalent of like people see it as the equivalent of wearing like pajamas.
Yeah,
don't they?
But it's 25 degrees, and I'm getting stared out by an old bloke wearing leather loafers.
Yeah, an old bloke wearing a suit.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's practical.
I like it. Yeah, but especially in summer. In winter, you'd probably struggle a little bit more. Especially in England. But no, I agree. Underrated socks and sliders combination.
Love that.
It's great, isn't it? It's like you say, universal.
Right. Final segment.
Yeah.
On this whistle-stop tour of a podcast.
Yeah, this is rapid, isn't it? Don't know how long it's been. What do you reckon?
About 45 minutes, okay. I think. Still decent.
Yeah, so reasons to be cheerful. Again, shock. It's right to us.
Yeah.
Reasons to be cheerful.
We're not giving you much here. Well, technically we are. It's a dual award this week, isn't it? They are interrelated.
Yeah, fair one. Yeah, I guess so. Go on.
So it's a two-parter. Yeah. Effectively, today marks the start of the Rugby World Cup.
Yes.
Which I'm gassed about. Yeah. You less so.
Well,
but by the end of the tournament, we'll have you into international rugby, don't we?
Yeah.
We like that.
Oliver's into it, so I'll be.
Yeah, Ollie Marchion's into it, so that basically means it's all I care about.
Yeah, literally.
Well, I'm actually going to see one of the games. Me and my dad are going to watch Wales, Georgia in Nantes, in the not Nantes, in the start of October. So that'll be class.
Yeah, cultured, like it.
Yeah,
nice. And then our second reason to be cheerful, two today, is we're now, as we mentioned, going to Brighton. Reason being, the International Fitness Summit is down there this weekend. Start of the week, we weren't even going.
Yes.
Which is funny.
So that's, innit? You do know that.
So that's good. On Monday...
This is just snowballed, effectively.
Mike Chadwick, friend of the podcast. If you know him...
he doesn't know it exists, but he's a friend of the podcast.
Anyway, messaged me saying, are you coming to IFS the weekend because he's speaking? And I hadn't really thought about it. I hadn't any plans, so I thought, fuck it, yeah. So me and Eddie both brought a day ticket for Saturday, and we were like under the pretense that we'd drive down Saturday morning, drive back Saturday night, job done, see whoever we saw in the day. And then today, basically they've had someone pull out, so now they need me to sort of step in to host a practical session.
You're in Team Red On.
Yeah. Which is funny because that's a para term and I'm a bootneck. But anyway,
and you're also a hat.
We'll leave that. But yeah, and then so that meant we'd have to go for the weekend. They've given us a fucking weekend pass basically. So we're what was a free weekend, like a weekend with nothing planned, is now a full weekend at IFS, which is going to be sick. We're going to probably see a lot of people who have definitely for me shaped my fucking view of the world, which is interesting. I've never really. Because I'm very, I don't know, one-dimensional with my echo chamber. Really, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the people who are there are basically all the people who, over the last 4 years, I've consumed their content and they've shaped where I am now. Basically.
Well, we spoke about this a few weeks ago, didn't we, with James Smith? So James Smith's going to be there.
Yeah.
And he's basically the reason that we are both doing what we do now.
Yeah. Pretty much.
So that's a good enough.
Fucking mad,
for me, that's a good enough reason in of itself to go.
Yeah, definitely.
It's going to be weird seeing these people in real life, you know.
I know.
Because I've stared at them through that sounds a bit weird. But I have just watched them through a screen for the past how many years?
For hours. Yeah. Hours on end. Like, Chris Williamson's voice is etched into my brain because I've listened to it for hours on end.
Yeah, we're going to see him as well, aren't we? That's
class. But no, it'll be sick. So we will update you next week in part 2 of this podcast.
And anecdotally as well, we have heard a lot of stories about people go to these events and their activation energy basically skyrockets to make impulsive kind of life-changing decisions.
It could be an issue, couldn't it?
See, it could be an issue for us, but also if we kind of get the bug, we'll pass it on to you, and then you can go next year and transform your life.
That's exactly true. And I think there's probably a one-way ticket to Oz with our name on it. Really.
Yeah, minimum, I'm moving to Liverpool. Ideally, I am moving to the Gold Coast, and you do know that to Shadewell.
Yeah, Shadewell. It's fucking Essence Gold Coast. But you'll get a taste of it tomorrow. So tomorrow, ideally, what we're going to do is get up with the aforementioned James Smith and go for a sea dip in Brighton.
On Brighton seafront, yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll get a coffee, which is the routine I enacted on the Gold Coast. And it is pretty fucking goated.
So I can get on
as
board
a morning
with that.
routine.
And also, UV exposure early in the morning is less. So you get your fix in early doors. And then I bunker down for some serious shade dwelling.
Education.
Education and work when the sun's at its peak.
Yeah.
And then I come out to play at night.
Brilliant. So I'm buzzing. Anyway, we have got to make a move because this is going to be a fucking horrendous drive. But we will get back to you next week. But part 1 in the books. Hope you enjoyed that. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah.